Hi, I'm Diane Hendricks and welcome to Fresh to Frozen and Back. This show is going to make your life easier. In each episode, I show you how to prepare fresh meals using quality ingredients, how to freeze them properly, then defrost them and bring them back to table at a later date. This show is all about beans. Been there, done that. Beans are loaded with fiber and protein and are a good source of good carbohydrates, also packing some vitamins and minerals. So the first recipe I love, it's so delicious, super simple, and you're not gonna believe how yummy it is. Creamy white beans with spinach, and here's all you do. Okay, so I have a pan that I'm heating up, and I'm gonna use this delicious Cortillo Trifias olive oil. It's a finishing oil, but if you're cooking very quickly and low and slow and adding a lot of ingredients, it's perfect. It adds an amazing flavor, nice and smooth and flavorful. So just a very little bit, and then we're just gonna throw the garlic in there. This is so good. It's super simple. So I have some minced garlic. We're just gonna heat that up just a little bit, just till it starts to get all aromatic and soft. So let's just get that cooking up, and then we're just gonna add the rest of the ingredients, and it's as simple as that. We don't want to overcook this because you don't want it to get burnt or too brown, so I can smell that and it's starting to sizzle. And then we're just going to add the rest of the ingredients. So we are going to add some lemon juice, some oregano, a little bit of nutmeg, stir it all up. We're going to add the beans. You can use cannellini beans, you can use any kind of beans that you want. I'm using, these are Great Northern beans. White beans are really nice with this, but you want a nice soft bean. And then we're just gonna cook this up a little bit, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mash it just slightly. Okay, we're gonna add just a little bit of milk. And you heard that the heat kind of went down, and then it's gonna bring it back up with that colder milk. A hit of salt, coarse salt, a hefty pinch of pepper. And then we're gonna stir that up, and we're gonna mash these beans up just slightly and then let them cook for a few minutes. And I'm just gonna use this spatula and just kind of push down. You don't wanna mash them all, you just wanna get them mashed a little bit because beans can be used to make things creamy. So when you mash them and get those insides, that'll make it a little creamier. Now you can use beans, these were actually beans from a can. There's nothing wrong with using canned beans. Just make sure you rinse them and drain them. And you can also use dried beans. You just have to soak them and boil them, which is no big deal. If you start the day before, you can soak them overnight and get them started. Okay, so we're just gonna let that kind of cook down. I'm gonna put a lid on it and let it simmer for just about 5 minutes. Okay, look at that. Oh my gosh. You can see that the milk is starting to absorb into the beans and it's getting nice and creamy. I'm gonna mash them just a little bit more. I love beans. They're actually really good for you. They're very satisfying, very filling, low in calories, high in nutrients, and a really good source of good quality carbohydrate. If you're eating carbohydrates, you wanna choose the best quality. You don't want the least refined, and beans are a really good thing for that. I have 2 kids, and they both love beans. And this is one of their dishes that they would prefer. This is actually really good too if you want to put it on bread. It freezes great, and I'm going to show you how that's done. I didn't want to use like a potato masher because it'll mash them too much, so right now we're perfect here. So now what we're going to do is we are going to add a little bit more milk, And we're gonna add some spinach and some fresh parsley. So let me crank this guy up. There we go. We're gonna add a little bit more milk and some fresh parsley and some spinach. You don't have to add the spinach, and if you don't like spinach, don't add it, but it's gonna wilt on its own. And you'll see as I'm stirring it that the spinach is going to wilt, but it's a boost of nutrition. It adds a beautiful flavor, and it adds a really nice color too. But with the garlic and the lemon juice and the salt and the pepper and the spinach, it really makes a wonderful side dish. Okay, so we're just gonna let that cook. I'm just gonna turn off the heat, let this sit in the pan for a minute, and then we've got ourselves a really nice dish of creamy white beans. And I'm gonna add a little bit of red pepper flakes because I like red pepper flakes. So we're gonna add a little tiny bit of red pepper flakes. And that nutmeg really just adds a nice flavor. Oh my gosh, so good. Okay, and that's actually done. We're gonna turn it off, and we're just gonna put the lid back on, let it sit for 1 minute, not even, let it sit for a second, and then I'm gonna show you how it looks when it's plated. Cortillo Trafias is 100% first cold-pressed Arbequina Premier Extra Virgin Olive Oil. With more than 1,500 acres of olive plantations situated in Castilla-La Mancha, Spain at 700 meters above Mediterranean sea level. The complete company is owned and operated modern state-of-the-art olive mills with the very latest technological advances. The Arbequina olive is the top olive in Spain for the production of extra virgin olive oil. It has a buttery, fruity flavor and is highly aromatic. This premier product has less than 0.1% acidity and is smooth with no bitterness. It is a great premier finishing oil, good for dipping, salads, light cooking, and a perfect garnish for fish, meats, and vegetables. Due to its delicate nature, this extra virgin olive oil should never be overheated, only cooked slow and lightly. This extra virgin olive oil is available in over 60 international marketplaces and has been awarded many medals in many extra virgin olive oil international competitions. The product is available in the United States exclusively at International Specialty Foods of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be purchased online at www.insfoods.com. in 250 milliliter and 500 milliliter bottles at $14.95 and $20.50 per bottle delivered. It's soon to be available on Amazon. In these episodes of Fresh to Frozen and Back, the olive oil that I'm using is extra virgin olive oil, Cortillo Trafias. Okay, and this is it. So good. Again, it freezes great. At the end of this episode, I'm gonna show you how all of these bean dishes look frozen. Look at that. Creamy, delicious, and just very high in nutrients, low in calories, and absolutely yummy. You can take another hit of nutmeg on the top if you'd like, and you've got yourself a really, really nice dish. I'm gonna add a little bit more of this beautiful Cortillo olive oil, and that's all there is to it. You're gonna love it. When we come back, I'm just gonna show you how to make hummus at home, just a classic hummus recipe. All right, who doesn't love hummus? It is such a popular dip in America, but it's extremely versatile. You can buy some great hummus at the store, but it's also super simple to make at home. I use hummus as a sauce for pizza. You can stir it into pasta. There's so many things. As a condiment for a sandwich, there's a million things you can do with it. So I'm just gonna show you how simple it is to make it home. It's typically made with garbanzo beans or chickpeas or chichi beans, whatever you want to call them. But you can use any type of bean. I use edamame. You can use any type of bean to make hummus. So here's all you do. I like to put the lemon juice and the garlic in the food processor first. I just put some lemon juice in there to get that garlic out of there. And then I like to just hit that, pulse it, and let the flavors kind of blend. It takes a little bit of the bitterness out of the garlic. Just let that pulse a little bit and just let that sit. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scrape down the sides. Whenever you have just a little bit of something in your food processor, it's gonna fly all over the place. So until those garbanzo beans get in there, we're gonna have to keep scraping down the side. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the tahini, which is a sesame seed paste. So good. You can actually use that like you use peanut butter. It's delicious and very good for you. So you can use whatever measurements you like. I kind of eyeball it. I have the recipe on my website, which is dianehendricks.com, but I like to eyeball it and always add more tahini at the end. You can add anything extra that you want. If you want more beans, add more beans. If you want more lemon, add more lemon. It makes no difference. So then I'm just gonna, again, pulse this up a little bit. Then we're gonna scrape down the sides, and we're gonna add just a hit of cold water. What that's gonna do is that's going to kind of break up this tahini a little bit, and it's gonna kind of mellow out the hummus. I don't know why, but it does. So we're just gonna add a little bit more water. And you know, at the end, if the hummus is too thick and you don't want to add more olive oil, I always add extra water. And water, it doesn't break apart. It doesn't break, you know, the hummus itself doesn't break from using the water. I do the same thing with pesto. If I feel like I have enough olive oil in there, then I just use water instead. So now we're gonna add the beans. And then we are going to drizzle in. We got a couple of guys flying. They look kind of nice on the set though. I think I'll leave them like that. It's like a pretty garnish there. So I'm gonna puree this, and then we're gonna start adding the olive oil. Oh my gosh, it is so good. And this is the Cortillo Trafia, which is the 100% Arbequina olive based, which is, you cannot say you're 100% Arbequina in Spain unless you are. And this is the top quality olive oil. So I'm just kind of drizzling this in. You can see how slow it's going in there. And the beauty about hummus and using the olive oil is that you don't need too much of it. It's got such a strong flavor. Now I'm gonna check this because I want you to take a look at this to see the consistency. So if we can come in here a little bit so maybe you can see it. So to me, this is slightly thick. You can see it's a little bit too thick. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more olive oil and a little hit of water. So let's go back to the drawing board here. And this is it. Oh, I need some salt. We're gonna do a nice pinch of salt. And then I'm gonna add just a little more olive oil. Oh, it smells so good. It's aromatic, buttery, flavorful, amazing. And then just a little hit of water and we're good to roll. And that's it. It is as simple as that. You have to taste though, and I'm gonna taste this and see if it needs anything else. So let me just taste this and see how it is. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Now, it needs a little hit more salt. I'm gonna hit a little bit of black pepper, and I need a little bit more lemon juice. So this is how you do it. You taste it. You can't cook without tasting. You have to taste stuff or you don't know what it tastes like. So I definitely didn't add enough lemon juice. The tahini is perfect and the amount of beans is perfect. So I'm gonna blast this one more time in the food processor, add a little bit more olive oil, because I went slow. You wanna go slow so it gets incorporated in there, and that's it. And the beauty of using this beautiful finishing oil is you have all of those flavors and all of that low acidity and all this wonderfulness going on when you're using a very, very high quality olive oil. And we are good to go. And that's it. And this is one of my favorites. Now, when you use a food processor, I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's a hole under the bottom here. And if you put your finger in that hole, that keeps the blade from falling out when you want to plate it. So I'm gonna plate this right here in this beautiful bowl with these gorgeous vegetables. Look at those carrots. And then see, I'm holding the bottom so that the blade doesn't fall out. So you just kind of, let me show you that, because a lot of people don't know that. I don't know if you can see, my finger is holding it in there. Just a little tip for you at home. And that's that. So we've got a beautiful plate of hummus. I'm gonna add a little bit of, I've got a little bit of spinach over here, but if you have parsley at home, that's fine. You might wanna put a little color on the top. And then a couple of garbanzo beans. And that's that. And you have a beautiful plate of hummus. I'm gonna drizzle another little hit of this olive oil on top. And you've got yourself a beautiful dip to serve to your friends and family. You can use it on a sandwich. You can stir it into pasta, put it on pizza. go to my website. I've got a million things to do with hummus on there. When we come back, no meat, can't be beat, veggie burgers. Okay, veggie burgers. I have 2 kids that love veggie burgers. They're 2 boys and they are both kind of leaning towards becoming vegetarian, so they have all these different type of veggie burgers that they love. So I made these at home, and if my oldest Lucas approves, they gotta be a winner because he's really picky. And this is all you do. Okay, so we're just gonna heat up a pan. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil. You know what we're using. And then we're gonna add some onions. We're gonna crank this up nice and high. We're gonna add onions and we're gonna add mushrooms. And these mushrooms are going to get nice and soft. They don't have to get too soft because you want them to have like a meatiness to them. And the mushrooms are actually going to be part of that chewiness to replace the meat. We're gonna be using the beans as well, but the mushrooms give you that kind of like meaty bite. So we're just gonna let that cook for a couple of minutes. I'm gonna say maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm gonna just stir this up and let it cook. Add a little pinch of salt and pepper. And let it cook up a little bit. I like pepper, especially in burgers. I like the flavor of pepper in burgers. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this cook down, and then we're gonna move over to the food processor, and we're gonna process some ingredients, okay? So all we're going to do is we are going to add some Worcestershire sauce, Worcestershire. And if your burgers at the end are too dry, you can always add more Worcestershire. Then we're gonna add an egg. This is gonna help to bind it. And if you're vegan, if you want this vegan, you can use like flax meal and a little bit of water, and that will kind of, or even chia seeds and a little water, and that will give you that bindingness of an egg. Some horseradish, which I love in burgers. You can go as much as or as little as you like. I'm gonna add all of this because I like it. And we're gonna add some tomato paste. I love tomato paste. If you watch Fresh, Frozen, and Back, you already know that because I absolutely love it. I use way more than most people do, but I think it's just so good and it adds a depth of flavor. And then I'm going to put some spinach in here. If you don't like spinach, don't use it. Use anything you like. You can put carrots in there. Any veggie burgers are just an empty palette for you to add your own personality. Now let me go stir this over here. Multitasking over here. Because this is going to go into the food processor. I don't need to cook these, I'm just softening them. So these only have like another minute or so. But let's let them sit a little bit. We'll pull some of that stuff up and I'll start mashing the beans. My hands are gonna get all messy, but you can't make burgers or meatballs or anything like that without getting messy. Okay, so let me put some of this away. I'm gonna hold on to this Worcestershire in case I need it. Now here's what I like to do because I don't like to waste. I'm gonna put that Worcestershire in with that little bit of tomato paste that I have left so I don't waste it. So I can use that more of that tomato paste, and now I have a little concoction that I'm not gonna waste. Okay, so we're going to mash these beans up. I don't want them completely mashed because believe it or not, I like to see a little bit of a whole bean in the burgers. I'm gonna turn this off and let it sit. Okay, so I'm using kidney beans. I like the kidney beans. They have a bit of a meatiness to it. And I actually like the skin on the beans because, again, you get that texture. And these are pinto beans, so I like the combination of both, but you can use anything that you like. So I'm gonna get in there with my hands and I'm just gonna squeeze them and mash them. And what you're doing is you're squeezing the centers out of those beans, the inside of the beans, which is gonna give you that soft consistency. Now, if you only use beans, it might just be a little bit too mushy, so I'm gonna add these textured ingredients to it. Okay, so I think that's good with the beans. I'm gonna rinse my hands off. Okay, so the beans are mashed enough, and you can even see in there that there's a couple that are whole. I like that. Then we're gonna take these mushrooms and we're gonna add them to the food processor. Now it's okay if they're warm because there's a hole in the top of the food processor and that's gonna let this air escape so things don't pop. It's like a blender. You've gotta make sure you leave that opening hole of the blender open if you're gonna puree something that's hot. Okay, so let's get this going. And you're gonna, scraping down the sides is always a must, because you don't want all those chunks, you wanna move them down there. So I'm gonna scrape the sides down, and you can see that this is wet. This is a little wet mixture, but we're adding it to these drier ingredients. That's good. Okay, so now we're gonna take this, again, remember, hold on to the bottom so we can pour this in here. And then we're going to add some, I'm gonna hold some of this off to the side because this is really kind of trial and error with consistency because you don't want it too wet and you don't want it too dry. So we are going to add some breadcrumbs. You can make your own. It's super simple. Take bread and stick it in the oven and then put the bread in the food processor. Or let it sit out on the counter and get stale. You stick it in the food processor. Voila, breadcrumbs. Easy. Brown rice. You can use basmati rice for a little flavor, any type of rice that you like. And then I got to get back in there with my hands. I'm going to hold on to this little extra Worcestershire in case I need it. Let's try it with this so I don't get all messy right now. So I'm going to get in there when we form them, but right now I'm trying to find the right moisture level. That's what it is. We're trying to find the right moisture level. Okay, these look good. And what we're gonna do after we make these is we're gonna put them in the refrigerator and we're gonna let them kind of firm up a little bit. And they freeze great, just like everything, fresh to frozen and back. So I was gonna use all these breadcrumbs, but I'm not. So I think that's perfect. And I think we're good. I think we are good to go with this. Now you can make sliders with these if you like. I mean, there's any size that you want. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the rice. The full recipe's on the website, dianehendricks.com. I've already tested it and made it, but right now I'm just kind of winging it because it's fun. Okay, that's perfect. I can actually hear it. I don't know if you can hear it, but as I'm stirring, you can actually hear the thickness of it. It's not watery, it's thick, so these are perfect. Okay, now what we're gonna do is you're gonna take them, any size that you like. So it's like a meatball. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pat them down in a minute. Try to get them all about the same size. I'll make 4 of them right now. I'll save the rest. Now, if you wanna just make a couple of them and you wanna form them later, you just stick this in an airtight, freezer-safe container, label it with a Sharpie, and you can always come back and make them later. But it's easier to just form them and make the patties to start. Okay, so that's enough for now. So let's do this. I'm gonna rinse my hands off one more time. Oh, not yet. Let me do this. Here's all you're gonna do. Just pat them down. If they fall apart, just kind of mush them together. The last thing you want to do is have too much filler. It's like making a crab cake. You don't want a lot of filler, like breadcrumbs and things like that. But the brown rice is good because you've got fiber and you've got some good quality carbohydrates and protein. Okay, so those are ready to roll. I'm gonna stick them in the refrigerator and then we're gonna come out and I'll show you how you saute them and then how to freeze everything that we made today. Okay, so we're ready. These were in the refrigerator for about a half an hour. I'm gonna add some olive oil to this pan, but I'm not using this finishing oil. I'm using an olive oil that has a higher smoke point because you don't wanna use a finishing oil for that. So let's get this nice and hot. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna sear them on both sides, and then I like to stick them in the oven because they cook thoroughly, they get warm on the inside without getting too crispy on the outside. So let me just give it a minute for this to get hot. So we're gonna let this get nice and hot, which won't take more than a second. I just wanna hear that sizzle, so we wanna make sure it gets hot. Good. Okay, so that's nice and hot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this burger and we are gonna put them right in the pan. Hear that sizzle? That's what you want. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna sear these on both sides and then we're gonna stick them in the oven. So while those are heating up, I just wanna show you about the frozen part of this. Okay. Here's what we got. These are the creamy, I have creamy cannellini beans. It freezes amazing, it defrosts amazing. You just put a masking tape, or sometimes I use Scotch tape because you don't want to write right on the container because then you don't reuse it again. So when you're done, you rip off the tape and you use it again. Let me just flip this over and then we'll be done with these guys. There we go. So those guys will cook and then we'll stick them in the oven, but I'm going to take them off the flame because you understand that. You flip them over, stick them in the oven, 350 for about 20 minutes and they're done and they freeze great. So here's what they look like frozen. So these are frozen solid. These are perfect. So you can take them out, you can just leave these on the countertop to defrost, and then you just use it like you would a regular burger. Reheat it, you can reheat it in the oven, in the microwave, in a pan, however you want to do it. So the beans and the hummus, you just put it in freezer-safe containers, label it with a Sharpie and tape, and you're ready to go. And that's the end of this version of Fresh to Frozen and Back. Please share this episode with those that you love and that you think will enjoy it. Visit my website and follow me on social media, Diane Hendricks, that's Henderiks. And I look forward to seeing you again. Tune in next time. See ya. Cortillo Trafias is 100% first cold pressed Arbequina Premier Extra Virgin Olive Oil. With more than 1,500 acres of olive plantations situated in Castilla-La Mancha, Spain at 700 meters above Mediterranean sea level. The complete company is owned and operated modern state-of-the-art olive mills with the very latest technological advances. The Arbequina olive is the top olive in Spain for the production of extra virgin olive oil. It has a buttery, fruity flavor and is highly aromatic. This premier product has less than 0.1% acidity and is smooth with no bitterness. It is a great premier finishing oil, good for dipping, salads, light cooking, and a perfect garnish for fish, meats, and vegetables. Due to its delicate nature, this extra virgin olive oil should never be overheated, only cooked slow and lightly. This extra virgin olive oil is available in over 60 international marketplaces and has been awarded many medals in many extra virgin olive oil international competitions. The product is available in the United States exclusively at International Specialty Foods of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be purchased online at www.insfoods.com. in 250 milliliter and 500 milliliter bottles at $14.95 and $20.50 per bottle delivered. It's soon to be available on Amazon. In these episodes of Fresh to Frozen and Back, the olive oil that I'm using is extra virgin olive oil, Cortillo Trafias.